Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new update video on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well. Just catching you guys up with some of the news that we've seen over the last 7 days or so. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd like to start by saying I appreciate anyone that watched some of the videos over the weekend or dropped me a message or dropped a comment on the video. I assume you'll know what the situation is about, but I appreciate that. Hopefully it is just a closed chapter now, and we can move on and crack on with Talking Wolves. I've had a few people send me messages or comments that aren't brilliant and not very productive, but I just don't think they understand the whole situation. But there we go. But we'll start off with the news anyway today. And probably the breaking news over the last 24 hours or so is in regards to Fabio Silva, of course, out on loan at the moment in Spain with Las Palmas. And we know it's going to be quite a big transfer story over this summer, especially as he's been pretty productive over in Spain, to be fair. Another couple of goal contributions for him over the weekend. And of course, that is going to create more interest in the forward. Now, last night we had a report from Sky Sports over in Germany, in particular from the journalist Florian Plettenberg, who had dropped an exclusive that Eintracht Frankfurt are reportedly interested in the Wolves striker. And it said that there has already been talks between all the parties in regards to a potential move here. I actually think Fabio would do really well in the Bundesliga. He's bulked up a lot. He looks fitter, sharper than ever at the moment. And I think that's probably a league that he'd do well in. Another couple of clubs reported by Rudy Galletti today, Stuttgart and Wolfsburg, both reportedly interested in him. But I think Eintracht Frankfurt, in terms of finances and the money that Wolves would probably want for Fabio, will probably be able to get closer to the amount that Wolves want. I was just trying to find a post that Gully, who obviously posts on the channel every now and then, a post that he put, and the actual sort of conveyor belt of forwards that have gone to Eintracht Frankfurt and done well is impressive. You look at Sebastian Haller, Jovic, Kolo Muani, Marmoush, and now Ekitike, who's likely to move on for a big fee in the summer. For a striker, that's quite tempting, and you would assume that after the sale on Marmoush and the potential sale of Ekitike, there might be some money there for them to spend. Maybe it's on Fabio Silva. Of course, he has been linked with other clubs in Spain. I think Sevilla were linked with him previously. Atletico Madrid, who he was actually praising in the press this week as well, are options. But, there's some big clubs there. And it looks like Wolves, if Fabio can notch up a couple of goals between now and the end of the season, Wolves might get a much better fee for Fabio than we probably expected. Of course, there's going to be a small portion of us that maybe want Fabio to return and have one last chance, especially under Vitor Pereira. But we've tried it 2 or 3 times, and I love Fabio more than most other people. But I think it's probably just time to start again, get our money, cash in, and crack on and see what we can do with that money elsewhere. Let's talk contracts now. A couple of pieces of contract news. One actually in regards to our manager, Vitor Pereira. Of course, when he signed, he was appointed as Wolves head coach in December. He'd signed an 18-month contract. So he's got about 12 months left on his deal as of right now. So it will expire at the end of the 25-26 season. According to Football Insider, Wolves want to sit down with Vitor in regards to a new deal. A couple of things to take away from this. Football Insider aren't the best of sources, if I'm honest. I do take this with a pinch of salt. But this actually sparked quite a bit of debate, because obviously Vitor's done a phenomenal job for Wolves. Long may it continue. We may well see Wolves continue their really strong form over the next couple of weeks as we play an out-of-form Manchester United, and then we play Leicester, who may well be relegated by then as well. But we saw what happened with Gary O'Neill last summer, where we gave him a bumper contract, and he just failed miserably. So people playing devil's advocate in the comments to when we posted this out are saying, well, why don't we wait till sort of December, January and see what situation we're in, and then commit to giving Vitor a brand new deal. So it'll be very interesting, of course, to see what happens in regards to that. If it was me, I think there's no harm in maybe giving him a deal, but it's got to be on much shorter terms. Maybe just giving him another year extension, so basically extending the contract to another 2 years, and seeing what happens there. But as of right now, I don't know. I can understand why people would have reservations on this, especially after the likes of Lopetegui and obviously Gary O'Neill a real notable one after signing a 4-year deal and was let go just 6 months or so after. We did have a little bit of news on Nelson Semedo, but not huge amounts, if I'm honest. Of course, his contract is still due to expire at the end of the season, as is Pablo Sarabia's deal, a player who I mention every time has played every game this year under Vitor Pereira and has come on over the last couple of weeks and had quite a positive impact. But Vitor did make some comments in regards to Nelson Semedo's new deal at the end of last week. He said, Nelson is fantastic, that's why we need to keep him. I've spoken to him and the club, but now they need to find the middle of the bridge. If it's my decision, I want to keep him, but the money is not my money. Of course, we know Nelson's on fairly high wages, and I spoke about this on one of the last videos or one of the last podcasts. I just think maybe the progression of Rodrigo Gomez and Pedro Lima maybe isn't as quick as Wolves had hoped for one reason or another. Of course, Rodrigo's had a couple of fitness issues. Pedro hasn't really been trusted huge amounts. He actually started, I think, against Manchester United in the reverse fixture at Molineux, and I thought he did quite well. So I think at least one more year of Nelson could actually do those guys a little bit of good just to help them bleed them in and help them in regards to their progression into the first team. But Nelson Semedo, let's wait and see. It'll be interesting to see if he signs a new deal. I didn't think he was fantastic on Sunday, if I'm honest, but I still think he's a real massive part of this team and been a really, been a breath of fresh air really since he took that captaincy on. So let's wait and see. And a couple of transfer rumours to finish us off as well. Hugo Bueno enjoying a decent loan spell over in the Netherlands with Feyenoord. And again, another thing that I mentioned, a lot of people talking about obviously Matheus Cunha maybe moving on, and maybe Ryan Aït-Nouri being the other big sale with him, especially after another good cameo and good performance from Ryan on Sunday. But I said there could be genuinely a world where Hugo Bueno is the big sale for me because of the profit that we would make off any potential transfer. That's what we did see over the weekend with Matteo Moretto, quite a reputable journalist, I should say, reporting that Bournemouth have got an interest in Hugo Bueno this summer. Of course, Bueno has been representing the Spain under-21s recently. I think there's an under-21s tournament in the summer. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So he'll probably be part of that as well. But Bournemouth more than likely to move Milos Kerkez on in the summer. I think clubs like Liverpool and so on have been looking at him. So Hugo Bueno under Iraola may be an option for them. But I'm sure a lot of Wolves fans are keen to keep him and maybe keep the healthy competition up with Ryan Aït-Nouri. We haven't really got a backup left back there at the moment. But I think if there's money there, you're talking 20 mil, 30 mil plus, Wolves have probably got to consider it for a player that costs them peanuts, really. And of course, Matheus Cunha, there will be more news about him, I'm sure, over the next couple of months or so. Last week, we saw a link to Newcastle United. That was from the Mail Online in one of their exclusive articles. Apparently, Newcastle have got Matheus towards the top of their targets this summer. It's not really... Matheus Cunha has not really played in positions that I think suit Newcastle brilliantly, if I'm honest. However, I think if you take into consideration the Brazilians that they've got there, obviously Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, you've got some players there that could easily, help sort of bed him into life up north. But also the Champions League, if they end up getting European football of some sort, Champions League or Europa League, they have got the money to stretch, I think, to sign Matheus Cunha and activate that release clause. I think that could potentially be an option for him as well. But that is all for today's news, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on any of the pieces of news that I've discussed today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Be back later on in the week with a Manchester United preview. And until then, I'll catch you on the next one.